Hey all, just a quick note before we start this episode. This episode was recorded back in April, so apologies for any references that are dated. So, on to the show. Hey, and welcome back to Game Talk. I'm your host, Ahmed Mian. Today I'm joined by Connor.
Hey guys.
And Mike.
Hello.
And today I think we want to talk about big paradigm shifts in gaming. So we've discussed this kind of lightly in the past, but every so often, every few years, there is a huge, I would say, seismic shift in the way we play games. And some of those shifts are bigger than others, right? So the biggest one that comes to mind is the shift from 2D to 3D. And maybe a more recent one is the emergence of VR. But maybe we can start at the shift from 2D to 3D. This is always an interesting one for me to read about, because I personally never experienced this.
Me neither, not really, because like the first game I ever played was Super Mario World. The third game I ever played, I think, was Super Mario 64. So, and no, the second game I ever played was Star Fox, which was 3D. So,
I guess I never really, I kind of experienced it in a way.
Yeah, our age range is kind of on the cusp, right? Because my first console was an N64, and I wish it wasn't, right? Just going back, hearing stories,
my first console was a Super NES, but I was born in 1996, so Super Mario 64 was out by the time I was born. I just, playing the old stuff.
We do be in that weird era, right between the split. I don't have any memories because I think the first game I played was, I don't even remember. I think it was that plane racing game.
See, that's funny.
That scarred me for life.
It's such a vivid memory for me.
No, one of the first games I played was Wild Arms, and I think Zelda as well.
Which one?
Ocarina of Time.
Okay, so yeah, you kind of started 3D then.
I mean, yeah, I guess the person who's experienced it the most, oddly enough, is you, Connor, because you started with a 2D game, and then your next game was a 3D game. But
I remember my mind was blown playing Super Mario 64, compared to Super Mario World, especially because, I did not play that game the way it was intended. It actually was more or less the first open world game I ever played, because the copy I got had a completed save on it, and I didn't understand that in my kid brain. I just thought that you could go wherever you wanted and hang out in Peach's Castle.
And that was the game.
Did also play, I played Link to the Past at some point in there too, I think. It all blends together. I don't barely remember that period in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I can only imagine.
College pushed that out.
Dude, there's also the arcade to console shift too. That is
that was huge.
I didn't experience that either.
I didn't experience it in real time, but I know a good bit about it because I think it's fascinating because the game design is so completely different.
Yeah, you went from something that's designed to eat quarters to something that doesn't have to be abnormally hard to eat quarters.
Interestingly enough, I would argue that the 2D to 3D transition was far more graceful than the arcade to home console transition.
Oh yeah, could you imagine if Dark Souls came out in the arcade era?
Wouldn't be that different, would it?
It really wouldn't. People would hate it.
The only difference would be you just start the game over when you die.
It'd be just as expensive too. You'd still be set back $60 in quarters.
I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be as popular if, say, a game like a modern FromSoftware game came out in the arcade era, because no one would want to spend $60 in quarters trying to beat
the games boss in the arcade era were characterized by being kind of bite-sized and repeatable, right?
They were meant to be small.
Yeah.
You'd never have a Dark Souls in an arcade machine.
Right.
Yeah, but then some of my favorite games were still pretty bite-sized and repeatable. Super Mario Bros. 3, Castlevania.
That's just because of their age.
Yeah, they were still, but they were informed by that design. I mean, I think Castlevania might have been an arcade game in Japan.
No, I mean, back then there was definitely a lot of design carryover between arcade and early consoles.
The average NES game had a score.
The average arcade game could be completed, or I think all arcade games could be completed at max in 8 or 9 hours.
I'm gonna have to add a completely arbitrary score counter to my next game that I make.
I mean,
Yeah, you can still see-
You kind
I
of
don't
say
know.
that in jest, but like, I don't know. Like, I feel like a score counter has never hurt a game. Like, it's always
It's always just kind of there.
I
You just
disagree.
Look at
I
it.
think that the score counter hurts you in Super Mario 3D World
Why is that?
because when you play multiplayer, it maybe this was just my particular friend group, but I had people that I could not play that game with because they would get so mad at me
Oh,
because my score would be the highest because it's
it's
I play video
competitiveness.
games more than them. Yeah, and there just really was no need for that.
okay. I mean, but that sounds like more of a you
Yeah.
problem. But yeah, I don't know. Like I do have like a fondness for arcades, despite never growing up with them. Like I definitely kind of yearn for that era. Like,
Dude, so I know you've been to Starport in Morgantown, right?
right? Yeah.
Rest in peace.
It was nice. Huntington, West Virginia. It's called Old North now, which is kind of lame compared to its old name, which was Quicksilver. That place was nuts. It is the coolest barcade I've ever seen in my life. It was so fun.
Yeah, you wouldn't
Like-
think something like that would be in Huntington, but
You know,
No, Huntington actually this is shocking. Huntington is actually kind of incredible. Like
Game Talk trip to Huntington.
yeah, a little bit. But no, yeah, so like they had all these drinks based on like video games. Like I got a very a flamboyant, I guess would be the word, drink called a fairy fountain, but I knew it was gluten-free and
Zelda,
I have celiac disease, so
I think
it was delicious.
Yeah, I think Starport had something similar. They just didn't openly advertise it.
see,
Yeah.
okay, so we're talking about our very local experiences here, but like Starport was really really cool and really fun, and probably top 3 places in Morgantown.
Starport had a lot of passion
But-
to it.
What I will say, the other barcade in
It was
Fallout
the
Morgantown,
Shelter?
one, right?
Fallout Shelter.
Fallout
I
Shelter's
love
gone
that
now.
I've been there.
It's gone.
Yeah,
It went under
no,
a
I mean
couple
it's
years
history.
ago.
It's been gone for a while now, but like it was just cozy, right? Like because they had
Yeah.
like couches set up, they had retro consoles everywhere. Like
Yeah.
it
So,
was
so like
It was
that's what
actually
so
owned
cool.
by a former band alum too.
So that was what was cool about Quicksilver is it had both. There was like a couch set up with just a PS4 and like it typically had Mortal Kombat 10, I think, or 11.
Oh, that's always fun. It's always
There's-
fun to be playing a fighting game in a public environment.
yeah.
So there was just a couch set up, but it had other games. That was just the one people were typically playing. But they also had a Dreamcast with Marvel vs. Capcom at one of the bars. They had the SNES and NES Classic. I remember I was hanging there with some friends, and I was like, "Hey, I want to see me beat Super Mario Bros. 3 in like 25 minutes," and I just did.
a pretty
while
cool
we were
trick.
kind of drunk,
Yeah.
and it was so like I yearn for that arcade experience. I had
yeah.
so much fun at Quicksilver.
Definitely.
Because the modern arcade is not built upon trying to get your quarters as fast as possible, but
No,
to provide a
it's built around
unique
getting you to buy
experience.
drinks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Buy drinks and to have like an experience with your friends.
Right.
Arcades evolved to keep up with consoles because now they're not the only source of video games.
That was the other thing. Every game at Quicksilver was free.
Yeah.
Except for Dance Dance Revolution, I think. They were
I think
all free.
Starport had their own tokens, but largely they were
Yeah.
pretty affordable.
Yeah.
And none of the games were real token hogs either.
Free was nice because it was like, I was the designated driver and I wasn't bored,
Yeah.
So I was gonna say like arcade games still. I mean, it's rare, but they still have some kind of crossover with console games.
Yeah.
What was that one like 8-player arcade game that's really fun? It came to
Queen.
yes,
Killer Queen?
Killer Queen. Yes,
Yeah, that
I
game's really
loved.
fun.
Now, the JoJo's
They had
reference.
Killer Queen at Starport for a while, and it was such a blast. My God,
Yeah.
what a cool
I have
idea
that
for
on
a
my
game.
PC too. I've played because I played it some of the pandemic.
Yeah,
They also had that like
but that game in an arcade setting. Geez,
It was
that was
insane, yeah.
That was so much fun.
And they
yeah.
the arcades really knew their audience too. Like in modern day, they had like cup holders in the arcade machines. And
Right,
stuff.
yeah,
Very
they know what they need to do.
Yeah.
And like I remember like the weird like Mario Kart knockoff
Yeah.
like driving games.
No, there was
Like,
There's a
it wasn't
legit
knockoff.
Mario Kart.
Yeah, there was. an
Oh,
arcade
yeah?
Mario Kart.
There is
Yeah,
an
I guess,
arcade
yeah.
Mario Kart with the
It just seemed
Taiko
weird,
Chan
you
or
know,
whatever.
it didn't seem very Nintendo
It
sanctioned.
wasn't
but
made
like,
by Nintendo. I'm pretty sure it was made by Capcom.
Yeah, I think
Okay, yeah.
Capcom made it, but they got all the licensing from Nintendo.
Yeah,
no, I mean that was a lot of fun too. Like
it was.
man, I miss having a good regular arcade to go to.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I
me
miss
too.
Starport in Morgantown.
Yeah.
Granted, Starport.
It might come
I
back
was kind of
eventually,
dissing it earlier, but I
hopefully.
would be there if it was still around. I loved Starport.
It's supposed to come back at some point,
Yeah,
but
I know.
People keep
this isn't
saying
the
that,
first time they've
but-
not had a building either. Like it's happened
Yeah.
before.
yeah. They allegedly have a building, they just haven't updated us at all in the last 7 or 8 months.
I'll be there.
Fallout Shelter though, like
yeah.
that, I feel like that was really a labor of love because like to get there, like it was like a
It was
hidden
up in a
entrance behind like a
basement.
bookshelf.
Yeah, Gabby told me it felt like just hanging at some dude's house.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. Because I think me and Gab went there together just to
was-
explore it. And I
was-
noticed
I enjoyed
one
it.
of the signs was actually stolen from a football game. Because it was one of the band steal signs. Or one of the signs that the band members always stole.
Yeah.
Because I think I have one too.
We went off the rails here a little bit, but I do. Yeah, I love the arcade experience. I also like have so I categorize my Steam library, and I have a pretty big category of games that I consider basically arcade games, and I think it's notable that I put every roguelike in that genre. Because
Yeah, I could see you playing a roguelite
there's-
at an arcade.
There's something to that. I think.
and that's like my favorite genre. Yeah, no, if there was a Spelunky machine, don't think for a minute that I wouldn't be spending my whole evening there at an arcade.
No, roguelikes definitely translate extremely well to arcade. Like
Yeah.
I feel like you could almost
Well, you
pretty
could
much
almost just put
any
quarter-
roguelike you could make into an arcade machine.
Yeah,
Spelunky, but every time you die, you have to throw a quarter into a jar.
yeah. Yeah, I could just have that in my house. Yeah, so yeah, like I think, but I definitely wasn't around for that transition. You know, I
No.
was 10 years from being born.
Yeah, that was definitely a golden era in
I think-
the 80s or whatever.
Like another sub paradigm shift that happened around that time as well was the shift to joysticks.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
that was
analog
around
sticks,
the 2D
yeah.
to 3D. Yeah,
Yeah, it happened roughly at the same time. And that
Yeah.
was
Yeah, I
more
mean, like that,
influential.
something like that
even
was
then.
definitely necessary because now you could move
Kinda.
in 3D space in any direction.
Yeah.
Whereas before.
I'm pro joystick. Like, I think a joystick is a superior way to move in 3D space. Spyro plays perfectly fine without a joystick. Like, Nintendo definitely exaggerates how mandatory, especially since they've made a bunch of 3D games since then that work on a D-pad.
Well, without a stick, you're limited to what, like 8 directions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, sort of. Depends on
8
how the
directions,
controls work.
analog input. No, the real thing is the digital input versus analog input. The ability to have fine-tuned inputs instead
Right.
of what was previously you're either 1 or 0.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do wonder, like, if that took a bit, like, for the avid gamers back in the day, if that took, like, a bit of mental rewiring to get used to.
Oh, it for sure did. Every single
100%.
time. Like, I mean, I can't remember what game this is, but the first game that ever was a twin stick first person shooter, it got raked over the coals in reviews for having unintuitive camera controls,
Yeah.
which is, very funny considering that's what everybody does now.
Yeah, ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an interesting one, Mike. Wouldn't have thought of that. But,
I
I mean, we could go to the opposite end of the spectrum here and talk about the most recent major shift, I would argue, is the emergence of VR, right?
Yeah, and I think that it's very different from any of the others because, like,
This is a whole sub
Arcades-
genre of development.
like home consoles did replace the arcade, and for the most part 3D gaming did replace 2D gaming for a long time, and
Yeah.
VR's not ever going to do that. VR's not going to replace 2D gaming. It doesn't
Right.
I don't even think anyone in VR has that ambition except maybe Mark Zuckerberg, and he's an idiot.
Yeah, VR is not going to replace your standard PC. It's going to supplement it. It's a supplemental form of gaming.
Yeah, like I've said that there is definitely a world where VR headsets get nice enough that I have a VR headset instead of monitors. Like, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to be playing 2D games in them.
Yeah, I would still argue, like, even though, like, obviously it's not going to replace traditional gaming, like, it is a paradigm shift, right? Like, because I remember, like, putting on that headset for the first time, and, people can describe it to you all the
No,
day,
it's life changing.
but, like, yeah, you put it on, and you're inside of the game,
Yeah.
and it's just, you can hear about it, but until you experience it, you don't fully understand what that really means.
The novelty's very high.
Yeah, I
I-
think like the modern day VR is kind of suffering because people want to turn it into just real life.
It's
Here's the
also
thing, I mean, like,
suffering from a lack of major games. Like,
Yeah.
Half-Life Alyx is it, like, as far as major, and that's going to change soon with PSVR too. Amy
Yeah,
can probably
I think-
say a little bit to that, but there has not been a major release, like, if there hasn't been a major AAA release in VR in a very long time. The last one I can think of is Half-Life Alyx, and the last major release in general that I can think of is I Expect You to Die 2, and there are people that have not heard of I Expect You to Die. Like, it did not have the cultural... It's big, but it's indie,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, like you said, VR does have a bit of a games problem right now. I do think that games problem will be solved. And just regarding all the metaverse stuff, I think any emerging technology is going to have its growing pains. And I do believe metaverse is one of those growing pains.
Yeah.
I think once we get past it, we can get into what VR can really do. And I'm excited for that.
Yeah. I think I could do a whole episode of just the metaverse and why it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So I will spare us, but there's a lot of pushback against putting on a VR headset and just being advertised to. Like, no one's going to want to do that.
I've said it many times, like, the friction between me sitting on my couch and picking up a controller and turning on the TV is significantly lower than the friction between me sitting on the couch, getting up, putting on a headset, strapping on the controllers,
Right.
Yeah.
moving, doing what is essentially light cardio for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That friction is, I mean, I'm sure that's at the top of a lot of these developers' priority list, or not developers, but manufacturers' priority list is to reduce that friction.
Like the avenue that Valve took with the Valve Index was like, hey, we get that this friction is high. It takes a second to put a headset on. It takes a second to strap the controllers on. So we made a headset that is comfortable. Like, you could wear this and play video games for many hours without taking it on and off. And I think that's a good solution for some cases, but I can counter that easily by saying Beat Saber is like my favorite VR game, and it's super fun to play as a party game. Like, swapping the headset between friends and everything and seeing who can do better.
And Beat Saber is not one of those extended play.
No, you're gonna get tired.
You're gonna get exhausted eventually.
Yeah, you're good for like 2 hours Beat Saber tops, and that's if you're in decent shape.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is something to be said, right? Obviously, people don't want to be exerting that much energy while they're gaming, but there is something to be said about
that's true. Like,
I was gonna say there is something to be said about like the physicality of VR as well, and kind of using that as a bridge between like an active lifestyle and gaming.
Yeah, no, Beat Saber has mods that track how many calories you're burning and stuff.
Yeah.
Frankly, it's good cardio. More, it's not swimming, but it's good cardio. It's probably as good, if not better, than like walking on an incline or something. Like, I am not opposed to getting a workout doing VR. I actually think that's great. The problem for me is like, I need a game good enough to get me off my butt to do it, and we just haven't got those in so long.
Yeah.
Half-Life Alyx really being the only one I can think of that doesn't lean really hard on just the novelty. Because even I Expect You to Die, I think it's brilliant, but it's a seated. There's just not a ton going on.
Right.
Yeah. I do really want to play I Expect You to Die too, though.
And I do want to give a shout out, as always, to Astrobot Rescue Mission.
Yeah.
Which, in a different world, that would be... I feel like if that game was more... I don't even want to say fleshed out, because I think it was plenty fleshed out, but like if that game was maybe more advertised and put in front of VR, maybe released on PC, that game could have been like the Mario 64 of VR.
It couldn't be on PC, though. That was what was so nuts. That's what I think is so cool about Astrobot Rescue, is like, it is the only game I've ever played that made me think that the light bar on the back of the PS4 controller was a good idea. Like, because like, you don't, you can't play that game on a PC because you don't have controller tracking. You would have to like rebind a lot of things to make it work on traditional VR controllers.
That's true, yeah.
And that's fascinating to me. I think you could probably make it work on the Index controllers. That's kind of another problem VR has, is that if you sit down to make a VR game, you really can't utilize any specific controller features because well, that's a lie. You can make a game for the Quest 2 and you'll be pretty okay. But like, the Valve Index finger tracking and stuff, not a lot of games use that for anything meaningful because they can't assume anyone's going to have it, because the Valve Index doesn't have that big of a market penetration, you know?
Right.
It's not like the NES where everybody had it. You had your 4 buttons and a D-pad.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like, in terms of, like, the overall gaming landscape, I would say 2D to 3D and VR are the big
Horse
ones,
armor.
Right, horse armor.
Yeah,
is the third
no,
one.
I mean, the
That's
introduction of
huge.
DLC was a pretty significant shift in the gaming landscape, and it was not one, unlike the others we're talking about, which I think people have been pretty happy about. People were not happy about DLC. Like,
Yeah, the introduction of DLC is weird. Was horse armor actually like the first one?
no.
It was the first
It was
kind
the first
of
one to kind of catch
small
on.
microtransaction.
Yeah.
It before that there were always the concept of downloadable content,
Yeah, like
was-
The Sims had expansion packs.
like expansion
before-
packs.
Yeah.
But Horse Armor was the first one to be called DLC.
I think
Yeah,
Mass Effect is the one that, like, Horse Armor was pretty bad, but Mass Effect DLC was when it really made people mad, or at least that era, because that was the era of day one DLC, which people had.
That was,
probably.
I think, the first Mass Effect Day 1 DLC was actually 3.
Okay,
I
yeah.
think
Two or
that sounds
three.
right. Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
remember there being a huge Mass
Because
Effect
3 had
controversy.
Javik. Yeah, it was because Javik was on the disc, but you needed to
Mhm.
buy the
Yeah, and I agree with people that
whatever to get him.
leaves a bad taste in your mouth. Now, granted, now we don't buy discs at all for the most part.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, like, all of the horse armor and, like, the nickel and diming for, like, $5 for another character or whatever, that was all the precursor to microtransactions. It was definitely in a different reality, right? Like, when these developers were like, hey, we're going to try and do this just to see if we can. And if they, in a different reality, it didn't work, I wonder if we would even have the microtransaction-laden ecosystem that we do today, right?
I mean-
But I definitely feel like all of that was leading up to this
Oblivion
inevitability.
in itself was actually a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Yeah,
in a
okay,
way.
so, yeah, mention, that story you mentioned fascinated me. About,
Yeah.
You want to tell us?
As the words of Miyazaki himself, after Oblivion launched, Sony came up to FromSoftware and asked them to make a fantasy RPG. So they made Demon Souls. And now look at what just came out and what
Yeah.
smashed sales records or whatever.
So Elden Ring
It's,
can trace its lineage.
It's funny the funny things like that. It's fascinating to me in this industry. You see these little ripples, and then a decade plus later, they turn into a massive tsunami. You know,
Yeah.
Like, so Sony owns Demon Souls, the IP. FromSoftware made that for them, and you'd think if that IP, like Demon Souls, was still very niche, right? Like there was definitely a hardcore fan base for it, but it was a niche thing. Sony saw it, wasn't really interested in pursuing their relationship with FromSoftware further. And then they release Dark Souls, and that catches fire.
Yeah.
And then Sony comes back and is like, okay, maybe we do really like you. And then, they make Bloodborne for Sony. But the point being, if Demon Souls had been the one instead of Dark Souls that went crazy viral, we could be living in a world where where FromSoftware is a Sony first party studio.
Yeah. That'd be nuts.
That'd be a wild world.
Yeah. But I'm sure Sony kicks themselves every day for not moving on that like a decade ago when no one really cared who FromSoftware was.
I don't know that that's fair. Armored Core had its fans.
Yeah, no, you're right. What was it? Kingsfield, Armored Core, they had its fans, but
Yeah, I don't know about Kingsfield. I don't know much about that. But Armored Core, I remember playing Armored Core as a kid. I didn't know who FromSoft was, but I liked Armored Core.
Yeah, but like, I mean, to their credit, like, who could have guessed, right? Like, who could have guessed that this is where they would end up? But, I mean, I'm sure they do think what could have been, right?
Oh, yeah. How could you not? I mean...
But yeah, I mean, another big shift, I mean, we're getting to smaller shifts now because we already covered all the big shifts, but talking individual games, the shifts to open world, I kind of want to talk about, right?
Yeah. What
Yeah.
a mistake.
Okay, that's going a little far, but like...
I disagree. I think the wide acceptance of open world games as like a trend is a mistake. There are great open world games. I like GTA 5. I like Elden Ring a lot, obviously. There is no reason for Halo Infinite to be an open world game, and
I think
Yeah.
it is
so.
hurt by the fact that it is an open world
Okay,
game.
let me articulate a little better. I think the issue with open world games is that developers saw an easy to replicate formula, and that's all they made for a good long while, right? And only now are we starting to see deviations from that formula, like Breath of the Wild and Elden Ring and stuff like that really kind of stand out. But like, there's a reason why like the term Ubisoft game became a thing, right? Because despite, Far Cry, Assassin's Creed, Ghost Recon, like they all sort of had the same template of open world with towers that you explore to reveal extra sections of the map.
And their open worlds are just menus. Like, they're just slower menus. It's terrible.
Essentially, yeah. So, I feel like, I don't know, open world definitely went in a funky direction that really kind of stagnated for a while. But I do think the invention of the open world was a really cool shift, right? I remember, like, when I first played an open world game, my mind was blown to pieces. I was just like, I can't believe this, right?
It was Oblivion for me.
Yeah, I think it was Oblivion. And when I played Oblivion, I was just like, I'm in this massive world and I can go anywhere and talk to anyone and like attack anyone. And it just blew my mind because really everything was so constrained back
Oblivion
then.
did feel... Oblivion, like, I guess the most recent I felt this way was Elden Ring. But Oblivion really felt like you could play it forever.
Yeah,
like,
I remember thinking that.
There was no end in sight. Ever.
But I think, to be fair, a lot of people attribute the advent of the open world with Grand Theft Auto 3, but I've never actually played it. So
I have.
Grand Theft Auto 3
actually.
is older than Oblivion.
Yeah, I think so.
Grand Theft Auto 3 was 2000-ish.
Also, Morrowind is essentially just as open as Oblivion.
Funnily enough, I did start a file on
2001.
Morrowind. Okay. I started playing Morrowind on my Xbox Series X just for a little bit, just to check it out.
Oh, it's borderline unplayable.
Yeah, I mean, bless their heart, like they boosted the frame rate to 60 and everything, but still, it's just rough.
Nah, the thing that killed me about Morrowind is that I can swing, and I guess this is kind of a transition in RPG games, is that they don't really do this much anymore outside of turn-based games. But if on my screen I see my sword hit, and then I see some text that says my sword missed, that is unforgivable to me, and that is like 99% of my experience with Morrowind combat.
But
I hated it.
The funniest thing about Morrowind to me was that like I took like one step forward and I could see the world rendering in front of me. Like each step you take forward, you can actually see more of the world render.
That's
so
weird.
Like you basically exist in this bubble of rendered world.
They must not have been able to up the render distance on the console port because I didn't have that on the PC.
Oh, really? Okay.
There was fog. For sure, but like
maybe it is the fog I'm thinking of, but it definitely looked like looked like it was rendering almost.
Granted, this was 10 years ago I played this, but
okay.
I don't remember it being that bad. It's certainly not worse than Minecraft, for instance. Like
okay. Yeah. Maybe I'm thinking of fog, but I think, we do have to give credit where credit's due. Like GTA, what was 3 San Andreas?
No. San Andreas.
No, San Andreas was after 3.
Okay, got it. Okay.
It went 3 Vice City, then San Andreas?
Yeah, GTA 3, I mean, open worlds weren't even a concept until that game. And then developers took the concept and ran wild with it, right? Then we got things
not really
like...
true, though.
Why is it not true?
I mean, Daggerfall was an open world.
Oh, I mean, like...
The PC RPG space had open worlds before that. The idea of using an open world in something that wasn't an RPG is what GTA 3 really did. Like an open, realistic world with like a simulation going on and stuff. Like the modern open world idea. I
get what you mean, but like I don't know. Like the open world as we know it today, I feel like GTA 3 probably pioneered. But obviously for me that was Oblivion, the first open world game. And then like I definitely for a long period of time fell in love with open world games. Like I would get my hands on all of them. And I did not get tired of them until, obviously we started getting the same games over and over again.
I immediately... I started... The first Assassin's Creed game I played was 2, and I was immediately fatigued with the open world. I thought it was pointless and dumb.
So it took several Assassin's Creed games for me to feel that way. Like, I played 2, Brotherhood, Revelations, 4... And I think after 4 is when I started being like, okay, this formula is wearing a bit thin.
I played 1 through 4, and after 4, I'm like, this is too much.
And what's really interesting, I actually liked 4 a lot.
4 was really good, but Unity was where it like died.
I skipped Revelations. I skipped around. I did, I think it's interesting, though, because I think, GTA recently has one of the... GTA 5 is both one of the best and worst open world games, because, like, when you're just messing around in the open world, GTA 5 is really fun. But the open world for sure hurts the story. Like, it is not a fun game to drive to this location, and now you've started the mission, which is to drive to this location, and now you're at this location and the actual mission starts. That's bad game design.
This is why, like, honest to God, this is why I cannot get into GTA. I've tried so many times, but
it's extremely boring.
Just driving from point A to point B and, like, doing these menial things, like, I just don't get it, man.
GTA Online is honestly better, because GTA Online puts all that stuff in a menu, and it just puts you where you need to be.
Yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of people a lot of people like how realistic the city in Grand Theft Auto is, and maybe that's why they find it enjoyable to traverse the city. But like, it's not. I don't find like I don't want to be stuck. I don't want to be on a highway and like it's just.
I find driving in GTA, when it's what I wanted to do, I like to just get in a car and zone out and drive around in GTA. Sometimes I find that fun. When I wanted to do a mission and actually do like some fun shooty gameplay and story and stuff, that's when the driving is just a tedious chore that I have to do. They really make you eat your vegetables, you know?
Yeah, I guess, yeah. I don't know. I think another element of it for me is like the escapism part where like, yeah, I can go like outside and drive around in DC if I really want to. But like, you know, I'm not going to see anything crazy and fantastical in a game like Grand Theft Auto. I think that is kind of a factor for me in my enjoyment of those games.
You have to make the crazy stuff happen, typically. Yeah. I mean, then again, if you played GTA Online, you would see crazy stuff happen when you just drive around. I think the GTA 5 online multiplayer is actually quite good, despite all of its colossal faults, like being.
No, I mean it's definitely like. I mean, there's certainly something there. You know, it's the reason GTA 5 is the most successful entertainment property of all time. I was playing GTA 5 online with a couple friends because I have a couple friends who are super into it. Like that's all they do. Yeah. And like he had like a flying car and like an alien gun and stuff, and I was just like, how is this? This is like more Saints Row than GTA, but
yeah, it does get that way quickly. Yeah.
I still can't believe GTA has managed to parody itself.
Yeah, dude, Saints Row, by the way, very fun.
I like Saints Row a lot.
Saints Row the Third, at least. I did not care for Saints Row 4. I liked it. I liked just playing through the story, and then I was tired of it.
No, Saints Row 3 was the one. I remember playing that with my buddies in high school.
Yeah, that was super fun. And it was kind of like the perfect open world for me, because it was so goofy, and it was just very silly all the time. But it also had those moments that make you feel like you're on top of the world. Like the music in that game was very good, and the way it made you feel powerful and stuff was extremely good in ways that GTA has not matched. But then I don't know if any of you played Saints Row 4.
No,
Saints Row
did.
4 gives you literal superpowers.
Yeah, I saw that and I wasn't really interested.
Yeah, it was actually really kind of lame, because like part of the power fantasy of Saints Row was getting a nice car. And then having superpowers made, like, all the car stuff was still there, but why would you ever use a car if you can fly?
I think it was more in depth, too.
Yeah, no, it was better. And I was like, maybe they should have not given you, like, the powers were fine. Maybe they shouldn't have given you fast travel powers and stuff. I don't know. I also, like, this is a weird one, but there's, like, Saints Row 4 takes place in a virtual reality simulation thing, and there's, like, a weird filter over everything that, honestly, detracted from my enjoyment in a major way. Like, it was just so ugly because of this weird filter they put over the game for some reason.
Yeah.
Because it was like a very similar world to Saints Row 3, and they just put an ugly filter over it to make it look different.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of icky. But yeah, in terms of like paradigm shifts, I feel like we can keep breaking it down and getting more
really a paradigm shift
into the minutia.
For the grand scale of gaming, but there's a serious paradigm shift that was for me, which was like 2011 indie games hit the scene in a big way. And
certainly, yeah.
That changed gaming forever for me personally, at least. I play a ton of indie games.
I mean, in a sense, you can almost think of it having, you can almost think of like Yeah, a fork, much like VR, right? That's kind of what I was getting at. Like VR is a new way to play. Indie games were a new way to play, right? Like games made by smaller games, maybe that, harken back to some arcade roots, but, have modern design philosophies behind them.
Yeah. And it's funny to see how indie and AAA games bounce off of one another, because these indie pixel platformers started doing well, and what do you know, Mega Man 9 and 10 came out on the Wii, and they were throwback pixel art platformers, just like the classic Mega Man games, which were not what Mega Man 7 and 8 were. And
I mean, we got really, really excellent, like, referential love letters to older games, like Shovel Knight, right? Like, Shovel Knight is a brilliant game. Hollow Knight is a brilliant game.
Arguably.
What's that?
Shovel Knight is like 4 brilliant games, arguably.
Right,
The 4 different campaigns.
But yeah, so, I mean, like, because AAA developers at the time are only interested in moving forward, right? We've got these indie guys who are totally interested in making, like, the best, most idealized version of a game that would presumably exist in, like, the SNES era.
Yeah.
That's great.
No, Shovel Knight is actually NES. I know.
Is it really?
Yes.
It looks way too good.
I know. They bend the rules here and there, but no, that is NES.
That's wild, man.
They adhere mostly to the rules of an NES color palette, I believe.
Yeah, no NES game looks like that, but
that is not really true. You should play Castlevania 3 and some of the later Mega Man games.
Okay.
They look.
I mean, I'll take your word for it.
Castlevania especially is gorgeous. Like,
yeah,
it's nuts to look at Castlevania and think, like, how did they do that?
Mm-hmm. It is, I don't know. I do get a kick out of seeing what people can do with limited constraints. I feel like that's where creativity really kind of shines in these games.
Yeah, this is actually a pet peeve of mine, but there's this Twitter account that they do Game Boy demake screenshots where they'll take something, like a modern game or something, and like, what would this look like as a Game Boy game?
Yeah.
All they do is use the Game Boy Color palette, and it kind of makes me mad.
That's dumb.
And I think they stick to the resolution, but like, they don't stick to like the sprite rules or anything like that. And it kind of like, if you're gonna do it right. Like,
yeah, I mean,
they look good. Like, don't get me wrong; these are gorgeous pieces of art, and I don't want to take away from that. But it's not what I want it to be.
It is a fun exercise, and you do see people doing it quite often on the internet. Like, I remember just a couple days ago on YouTube seeing like a PS2 Elden Ring, right? And like with cross shots with like PS5
Bloodborne.
Yeah. Yes, there is. Yes, and that's actually quite brilliant. Yeah, that looks like
that one's actually playable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't looked at that yet. I need to.
No, I think it might be the whole game.
Really?
Maybe.
Surprised Sony didn't like send assassins after that guy.
Yeah, really.
I mean, they're never going to release Bloodborne on PC, so it's a net win.
I don't know, man. Like,
don't take this away from me. They might.
It's one of those things where I feel like people are just going to keep saying it and saying it and saying it until it just gets willed into existence.
Eventually, we'll have PS4 emulation.
Yeah. Well, and that too, I guess.
That won't be too much longer, probably.
But yeah, I don't know. Like, another couple smaller shifts that come to mind is the shift caused by Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. I feel like every FPS after that was kind of just copying that for a long, long time. Maybe until like Titanfall or something.
I mean, you could argue Titanfall's still just copying it. Like, there was still like first-person shooters stopped being single-player games with Call of Duty Modern Warfare, basically, right? Like the multiplayer became the focus. Was that was the game that really kicked that off, right?
I mean, multiplayer was present in prior Call of Duties, but like,
I mean, multiplayer was present in Doom, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Modern Warfare was the game, right? Like,
yeah,
that was the game. Yeah,
I mean, that's why I thought Titanfall was a weird thing to say, because Titanfall infamously didn't have a campaign. It was just the multiplayer.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
Which is funny, because then they clap back with Titanfall 2, which has one of the best, right up there with Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal is like the best first-person shooter campaign I've ever played.
Right. I do want to, I don't know. I feel like, I don't know if this is a shift necessarily, but like Minecraft by itself, I feel like is almost kind of a shift.
It's weird because I don't think we've not seen a lot of stuff from Minecraft. Like Dragon Quest Builders a little bit. There's definitely been some focus on like player creation and player driven But like, I can't think of a single AAA game that other than Dragon Quest Builders, that I could point to that is like, Minecraft clearly heavily inspired this. Like, there are things in Breath of the Wild that they claim Minecraft sort of inspired, but really that starts and ends with having crafting, I think.
I mean, okay, so these might be a couple spicy takes, but do you think something like Little Big Planet would exist without Minecraft?
I think Little Big Planet's older than Minecraft, isn't it?
Is it?
I think Little Big Planet was like 2009, I thought.
What about something like Terraria?
Terraria, I do not think would have existed. Little Big Planet was 2008, so yeah, that predates Minecraft by a bit.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't go giving Minecraft all the credit.
Yeah, no, Terraria,
I don't
though,
know.
Terraria definitely took a lot from Minecraft, and then a couple of games have taken a lot from Terraria. Like, I don't know that you get to Noita without Terraria. You might, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it is weird because you can't really see... I think Minecraft by itself, weirdly enough, like, not even, like, games that it spawned, but by itself was a paradigm shifter. Like, I feel like the fact that Minecraft exists, it led to a whole kind of another fork, like you said before, like, where some people make careers out of just making Minecraft videos. Some people only play Minecraft, and you could presumably just play Minecraft forever just due to how moddable and flexible it is.
Right.
And it really certainly created the idea of like, hey, these sandbox procedurally generated games can be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Minecraft really brought the voxel back into the eyes of the public.
Right.
Like, I don't know that you get No Man's Sky without Minecraft, actually.
No, that's very fair. Yeah.
No Man's Sky.
No Man's Minecraft?
Yeah. So, yeah, No Man's Sky's not AAA either, although it kind of is.
In a way.
I mean, No Man's Sky
sits in a very weird place.
No Man's Sky is an indie game funded by Sony, so take that how you will.
Yeah.
So, any other shifts you guys want to talk about? I feel like it's kind of tough once you get smaller.
Come back to the microtransaction shift, because I thought that was
Sure.
interesting that you all pointed to Horse Armor as like one of the firsts. But what year was Oblivion? That was in like 2008, wasn't it?
That sounds early. No, that sounds late for Oblivion, but let's just do some checking.
2006. Okay, so it might have been the same year. Because my first experience with microtransactions is MapleStory, for sure.
No, okay.
Yeah, but MapleStory was a Korean game.
Yes.
That was ported over.
Yeah, but MapleStory, these Korean MMOs had a significant market penetration in the West, and there's no argument that they did not inform mobile game design and microtransactions, because they made a killing. Like, MapleStory came out, I want to say 2006, but it might be 2002. 2003, April 29th, 2003. So yeah, MapleStory.
Well, I mean, I feel like, I don't know. I guess I don't have too much experience with other MMOs, but did other MMOs of the time have microtransactions?
It was not common. I mean, especially not Western MMOs. All Nexon MMOs did. Free-to-play MMOs came in a big way around when MapleStory came out, and I played many of them. I played a game called Flife that had a lot of microtransactions. I never bought any. I played MapleStory, which had a ton. I eventually bought a few, I think. I wanted to customize my character. So it was like selling skins before that was a thing, more or less. Yeah. And not really the same. It was selling items, but, arguably better. And then there was like Mabinogi I played. That was another Nexon one, another Korean game. Had a ton of microtransactions. Actually, that Mabinogi probably had the most modern microtransactions because they were like buy it once. They weren't like trying to nickel and dime you constantly. There were many that you could buy one time and not, they would get your money. They would get the money out of you that way.
Well, I'm sure Western developers saw how successful that business model was and just kind of ran with it.
Dude, while I'm talking about Flife, y'all should look up the soundtrack to that later. That game slaps.
Flife, what a name.
FLYFF. It is short
I know.
for
No,
fun.
we talked about it in our games of all time.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, that game's nuts. I do not recommend anyone play it.
Yeah,
for what it's worth.
You did say the same thing in that episode. I remember. Strong unendorsement of that game.
Yeah. It was fine for the time.
Yeah.
Does not hold up. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's another, massive online games was a pretty big shift that is still ongoing, especially with the metaverse stuff happening now.
I guess. I feel like
Games
we're
have become massively social.
That's true. Yeah. I feel like we're kind of just talking about genres now, but I guess they're connected, you know.
I guess if we're just going to call all massively multiplayer games one genre, but I would not necessarily put MapleStory in the same genre as Destiny.
You're right. I wouldn't either. Yeah. Anything else?
I mean, there's a weird shift in the late 2000 or early 2010s, late 2000s to making good PC games.
That was the wildest one.
Yeah, because I mean, you can like play games back to like 2010 or something, and they all kind of behave consistently and in a way you would expect. But you can go back and play like the old PC port of Battlefront 2, and that game, it's the wild, wild west of UI in there. It is wild to try to get through those menus.
Yeah.
I mean, look at every Bethesda
Steam.
game.
What a shift the introduction of Steam is.
Was it a shift or was it a bad shift? I argue for the superior client, EA's Origin.
Okay.
Now the new sponsor of this podcast.
There is an argument that consolidating all PC game sales into one store is a bad thing, and that's fair. Monopolies are bad. However, I don't know if you guys have tried to use an installer on a disc in your life. It's not a good experience.
That's awful.
Or when you have to like enter like a series of characters from like page 9 of the instruction manual to prove that you bought the game or whatever because they have their whack DRM.
No, believe it or not, like I did have a couple like PC games on disc back in the day when I was really young, and you speak the truth. Yeah, it was a strange experience considering what we have now.
Spore came out in like 2007, I think, and it, fan favorite game of the show, Spore. Definitely sits in a weird spot because I remember doing the installer and everything, and that game was whack. But then the actual UI in the game was actually very, very good. But then that's
I feel like Steam was like the whole advent of the digital storefront, right?
Yeah,
that changed everything, really.
Yeah. Oh my god, and the Steam sales back in the day.
The potato sack.
Very nostalgic. You could have $40 in your pocket, and you could walk away with 30 games.
I think the two games that I remember that I had discs for, one was like Roller Coaster Tycoon, and the other was like some SpongeBob game. And I remember having to insert the disc and like install it from the disc.
The original PC Battle for Bikini Bottom.
I don't think it was Battle for Bikini Bottom. It was like another weird.
Wasn't the original PC game. Battle for Bikini Bottom like a collection of mini games?
Yeah, it was a very different game. Yeah,
maybe. Yeah, I can't remember what it was.
I had a weird Rugrats game growing up. Oh my god, I had dude, you just opened up like a whole can of worms for me. I had I had these Tonka games, right? And I don't know how this works because you don't know what Tonka is, like the trucks and stuff.
No,
Mike. Do you know Tonka?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Like the construction worker, he's got like the big like American Dad jawline. Anyway, I had a bunch of those that had these sick like toys that strapped onto your keyboard, and like you would press specific stuff on the toy and it would press a key under it on the keyboard.
Yeah, there was like a bunch of hammer and like stuff.
Those games were sick. I played them so much. I wonder where they are now.
Game Talk plays. We play the Tonka games.
I might have to stream those games sometime.
Jeez.
If I can get them to run on Windows 11. There's no way.
I'm still on Windows 10, by the way.
I'll downgrade to Windows XP
Windows
for Tonka.
11, Windows 11 kind of sucks so far, so I would not upgrade.
I figured, yeah.
I mean, the auto HDR is really nice, but the rest of it's pretty bad. I think that Windows 11 is a significant part of why my GPU is crashing, but because I got a Windows update right before that started. So,
I mean, Microsoft has tried a couple times, but I've turned them down each time. But eventually, I know they'll just force install it because that's what they do.
This is totally unrelated to the podcast, but I'm going to whine about it anyway. I got put on Windows 11 Pro by what has to be a clerical error because my key is Windows 10 Home Edition, and somehow. Wow. I ended up with Windows 11 Pro evaluation copy, which is not something I consented to being installed onto my computer, and I'm pretty sure that's why I'm having issues. And it
Jeez.
also has a watermark on it that I can't get rid of without reinstalling my OS, which would delete all my data.
Man, I
kinda
feel
mad,
for you.
Yeah.
That's really annoying.
Yeah. I don't know how I got here. But also,
one out.
being the longer I'm a software engineer, the more inept I am with computers.
Dude, right?
I feel like such a boomer most of the time. Really bad, actually.
No, I can definitely relate to that. Oh, this episode kind of went off the rails. Do we have any other big shifts? I'm sure we've missed a few, but we covered the big one.
Steam opening the gates of not safe for work
Oh,
content.
yeah.
That was, oh god, I peaked that entire section. Oh no.
Let us
It's
know.
okay.
Emmett, have fun.
On Twitter and on our Discord at Podcast Game Talk, and our Discord link is in the description. What paradigm shifts did we miss?
Because there was that period where the front page of Steam just had a what was it, a hentai visual novel?
That was on the front page of Steam.
Yes, it was a top seller.
Mike, I got that. Oh, okay. If it was a top seller, I was going to
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
I got bad news
No,
for you.
it was a
because
top
the front
seller.
page of Steam is customized per person.
No, it was recommended to literally everybody I know. I'm like, what is
Well,
this? It was
I was gonna say
no,
that
it was,
doesn't really
it was top seller.
save you there.
I don't know why it was a top seller, and I don't know why it was like promoted on Steam, but it was.
Yeah, there's nothing there right now.
It was
Unless
a
Midnight
year or
Ghost
two
Hunt.
ago.
No, Midnight Ghost Hunt looks pretty tame.
Does
Yeah, it
okay?
was-
So
it
does
was a
Steam
rarity.
allow developers to like pay to have them be on the front page?
No,
No,
Because I know Sony's storefront does that.
you cannot pay to be on the front page of Steam. New and trending. I don't actually know how that one is evaluated, but you have top sellers, popular upcoming.
Yeah, I think it was on
specials.
new and trending is what it was. It was like top of new and trending. And I'm like, why am I recommended this game? I have never touched anything that relates to these tags on Steam.
On Steam.
On Steam, he
I like
says.
that addendum. Right.
Or anywhere, really.
All right.
I don't play like visual novels.
Everybody's played Doki Doki Literature Club.
I have not.
You're in the wrong then.
I have never played Doki Doki Literature Club.
Game's really good.
I
That is
played
a really good game,
the only
despite
good
the
visual
title.
novel.
All right.
I
I
love
think
you,
we've-
Colonel Sanders.
I think we've dragged this on long enough.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have 2 games actually this week, so I don't know how you
I don't.
want to.
I don't have any yet. I gotta think.
I got one.
Okay, I'll start then. So I've been playing Ghostrunner, Mike. I know
Oh,
you
boy.
were playing it. I think we actually showed that on video for one episode.
Yeah,
but
it was covered.
Oh yeah.
But me being the slowpoke I am, right? Like a year, 2 years after you played it, Mike, I'm in love with this game. I'm playing it on PlayStation 5 at 120 frames per second, and it's glorious. I mean, like, it's just so fast and frenetic, and it gets your blood pumping, and like, I love the hardcore nature of it, right? Like, you die in one hit, you kill everyone in one hit, and it's just cool, man. It's just this cool cyberpunk. You're this ninja robot thing with a sword, and you can like even parry bullets, deflect bullets if you like time your sword slashes correctly, and it's just, I don't know. I guess I was still craving something
Pain.
difficult maybe after Elden Ring, and this is definitely scratching the itch I was looking for. And I just love the movement in this game. Like, you're constantly parkouring off of walls and like dashing around enemies and stuff like that. It's just so quick and snappy, and like, if you're not tuned in, if you're not in the zone, you're not going to be able to play this game. Like, this is definitely not like a sit back, relax kind of game. But like, everything leads to that atmosphere, right? Like, the music is this synth, like percussive, like constantly pounding beat, and like
The genre is called cyberpunk.
right, yeah, it's a cyberpunk game, right? Like, so the aesthetic's really cool. Actually, like, playing this game made me think, like, God, I kind of want to play Cyberpunk 2077 now. But I don't know. I'll probably check and see if that's in a playable state.
It came out in the best period because it was in the lead up to Cyberpunk, and it filled literally everyone who was excited for Cyberpunk's hype.
better than Cyberpunk did.
Better than Cyberpunk did.
Yeah, this game is totally delivering, and I think I'm like over halfway now. I actually, you know what's fun? Like, I remember the episode we recorded when you were playing it, Mike, and you were fighting that boss
I was
with
fighting
like those
Hell?
lasers and stuff. I forget the name.
Or the tower, the watchtower, dude.
Yeah, the tower. You were doing the tower, and I
The
just
tower sucks.
I just recently did that. That was so hard, man. Like I was raging so hard.
It took me a couple tries to do, but then I
found a newfound respect for you because you did that while we were recording, and I have no earthly idea how you were able to do that because I would not.
I think the first time I did it, I was streaming it.
Yeah, I would not be able to talk and do that at the same time. That is just it was very difficult.
That's Mike's secret.
Yeah, right. He's not talking yet.
Yeah, I'm just like vocalizing my thoughts straight to the recording software.
Right. But no, like, I'm super into this game. Like, I have it in my mind that I'm going to platinum it, which is kind of insane.
You don't
like,
start games without platinuming, getting the platinum, right?
No, I don't. That's not necessarily true. Like, I often look at the trophy lists, and if they seem kind of BS, then I just play the game to play the game. But like, I don't know. I'm gonna play the game through all the way, and then obviously go back and try and get all the missing collectibles and stuff and that sort of thing. The story is interesting to me. Like, I'm not too invested, but I just more am into the insane gameplay of this game, which is just so good. And I definitely recommend it if you're into cyberpunk and like fast-paced melee action parkour games or anything like that. That's
one shot, one kill.
Yeah, one shot, one kill. It's and there's no difficulty options. It's just, that's what the game is. And let me tell you, at 120 frames per second, this game is just a dream to play. Because, like, certain actions require really precise inputs, like the bullet deflection and stuff like that. And, like, the extra frames certainly help there. So I think that is the first game I've been playing. Does someone else want to go next? Maybe Mike?
Well, I found a little indie game last night called Paunch. Paunch. And it's about it's a one-on-one fighting game, kind of, where your objective is you're a very large man and you must eliminate the other large man, either by punching him or throwing boulders at each other.
That sounds like fun.
Oh, it's a blast. It had to have been. It's all like default assets for Unity, but man, is it actually enjoyable. And there's one boulder that will end the game instantly if you get hit with it. So it just was me and my friend chasing each other around and throwing boulders at each other, hoping.
So it's like a 2-player game?
Yeah, it's 2-player. And the netcode's better than anything Nintendo's ever produced.
Very low bar.
Very low bar, but it is a bar.
It kind of reminds me of like the indie games like Nidhogg and stuff, where it's just you and one person going at it.
Dude, Nidhogg is good.
It's also apparently tagged on Steam or on Steam for hentai and sexual content, which I can claim that there's none of those.
That's how you're getting those ads, though.
That's the first time.
Starting to sense a theme with you, Mike.
Uh-oh. Is it the planes?
Yes, it's the planes.
Hey, I totally did install mods for Ace Combat.
Uh-oh.
No, I didn't.
But yeah, that's
Paunch.
Paunch. That's a great name. All right, Connor, how about you?
I've been playing it, but I've been thinking about an old game called Clustertruck a lot recently.
Yeah?
Yeah, have you guys heard of it?
Yeah, it's that truck jumping game.
So.
Yeah, it's a first-person platformer where you just jump from truck to truck and you try to get to the end of the level as fast as possible, and if you touch anything that's not a truck, you die. And the trucks, notably, are like, they're like 18-wheelers, and they're going down the road. It was a pretty big indie game. I think I might have actually talked about it on the show back in the day, because me and my friend got really into speedrunning it for a bit, competing with each other to get the best times on some of the easier levels.
Yeah,
and that was extremely fun because it was heavily RNG based, because every once in a while the truck physics would bug out and just launch you to the end of the level. Yeah, it was a fun game, good aesthetic, pretty fun. Would recommend it if you've been sitting on it. It's I think the reason I'm thinking about it, I keep seeing it on TikTok, and I don't know why, because it's from like 2013.
All right, so I guess I can round us off. I've been playing.
I got another one as well to round the episode off.
Okay, cool.
I'll think of one too. Don't worry.
Great, awesome. Why don't we all just think of 20 more games?
Keep it going. I got like 4 more games I can talk about.
So I've been playing Kirby.
Yeah,
and
the real good game of the year.
Yeah, Connor, have you played any more Kirby?
I have not played any more of it yet, no.
Okay, yeah, no. So I've been playing Kirby, and it's such a charming game. I really like it. I've been playing mostly in handheld mode because playing it on my TV kind of was making me sick.
Really?
It was just the scaling resolution and the 30 frames per second. It was just not ideal
I didn't
for me.
notice that. Yeah, because I played it all on my TV, and I am usually very susceptible to motion sickness.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't really. I wouldn't say sick, but it made me uncomfortable, I would say. But definitely, I think it really shines in handheld mode. And yeah, it's just, I use the word charming. I think that's exactly what it is. It's just a collection of levels with increasingly very creative uses for Kirby's powers. And very creative uses for the new mouthful mode, which I've seen some pretty crazy stuff. Seen Kirby eat some pretty crazy things with that mode.
No, don't say that. That is illegal. I don't want to look at your Steam history.
I saw him eat some stairs.
Yeah, he can eat like stairs. Mike, you're the one who took it there, so.
Oh no, I've been outed. This is the episode where I gotta resign from the internet. I've been outed as a degenerate. No.
But yeah, I do really like that you can you have that Waddle Dee hub where you can see all the Waddle Dees that you save, and like they eventually build house. You can hang out in Kirby's house. They eventually build no, you can't eat the Waddle Dees.
You can't eat. Oh man, that's it. I can't buy the game.
I do.
It's like rule 1.
They did lose me on one thing in the multiplayer. In Kirby Star Allies, when one of you would eat food, if you went up to another character, you would kiss them to give them some of the food. And in this game, it's a high five. And I really feel like they've censored Kirby.
They've canceled Kirby.
Yeah,
why can't Kirby and Bandana Waddle Dee share a passionate kiss, is my question.
Jeez. Okay. But I haven't played multiplayer yet in this game, but I was going to say, I do like how you can upgrade your powers and stuff like that. I think that's really cool. And the levels themselves, so I don't know how far you got, Connor, but I think I'm in the 3rd overall, world area.
I think I was in the carnival when I quit.
Okay, I'm in the same area, yeah, the theme park stuff.
Yeah. And
it's just great, man. It's a fun, adventurous Kirby game.
I got kind of Nier Automata vibes from the carnival, which was kind of funny.
That's curious.
Yeah. You should play.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how you mentioned, Connor, Kirby games take a turn for the.
I have heard that it gets pretty buck wild in the 3rd act.
Yes, exactly. So right now it's all pretty tame and cute, but I'm looking forward to see how all of that sort of devolves into alien existential horror. So.
Yeah, I didn't get far enough to see it. And that's usually the best part of the game, by a lot. I mean, just for an example, Kirby Planet Robobot, you find out that, the dude who's trying to destroy Planet Popstar is trying to do it to bring his dead daughter back to life. And then you find out that his daughter's not actually gone. She's actually there possessing a robot or something named Susie. And she's trying to stop her father from destroying Planet Popstar, and for some reason they couldn't just have that conversation, and then Kirby has to fight the supercomputer, which, turns itself into a god, and is about to destroy the entire universe because it's trying to grant a wish that it can't because she was never gone. And it
Is there a Japanese game that doesn't end with you fighting God?
Ace Combat?
Devil May Cry.
I don't think I'd
have
God
to see
in Ace
that
Combat
to believe
game.
it.
Devil May Cry 5, you do not fight any gods, I don't think.
You fight Virgil. You help Virgil.
He's not a god, he's a half demon.
Yeah, you fight Virgil to get Virgil. You help Virgil fight Virgil to make Virgil.
Yeah,
right?
But Virgil is not a god.
One day I'll understand that.
In the first one, you do fight a god, though.
So there's V, and then there's Virgil. But then you realize they're both Virgil. Just two halves of Virgil that you need to Virgil. It's an old game.
It is also obvious if you've played the franchise.
Yeah, just it's just Virgil. It's all Virgil.
I'm not going to remember any of this when I finally play those games. So
yeah, you should really do it, by the way, because oh my god.
No, I will. I've actually thought about it a lot recently. So
it's a good palate cleanser after Elden Ring, in my opinion, because it's very the skill ceiling is very high.
Yeah, I'm kind of using the Ghostrunner for that.
Ghostrunner for that, yeah.
But yeah, for Kirby, like, I guess another thing I'll say is I'm not as experienced with Kirby games as Connor is, but like, this is Kirby's first 3D outing, and it felt like right at home, right? Like, you could have told me Kirby
exactly
3D
like
games
2D
have been
games,
coming
yeah.
out for like 10 years, and I would have believed you, right? Like, there's no growing pains at all. Like, it feels great. Like, it feels totally natural. Like, the level design is great. The enemy placement is great. And, the only thing, I guess, it's not really a complaint, but like, especially coming off of like Elden Ring and Ghostrunner,
You're about to complain about Kirby being easy.
it's so easy, man. Like, it's just because they even had this thing when you start the game, it's like, do you want to play it in wild mode?
Yeah.
I was just like, yes, sign me up for wild mode. Yeah, and wild mode was just like baby's first game.
It'll
So I
get
can't
harder
imagine
in the
what, like-
third act. It really will, but not
Okay.
not by much. It'll get to like Mario game level difficulty, I would say. Like,
Okay, I think that's an acceptable level of difficulty. Because right now it really feels like a game designed for babies.
and granted, the
But-
platforming never gets hard because like you can't take away the fact that Kirby can fly. Like,
Yeah,
the platforming will never be hard, but
right, yeah.
some of the later boss fights will likely be a little harder. And like Kirby has a tendency to like in Planet Robobot, it was called Meta Nightmare, where you would play through the game a second time as Meta Knight with a timer, and like health pickups were rare, and it was it was a harder way to play the game. I wouldn't be surprised if there's something like that in there. But yeah,
Okay.
you cannot come to Kirby expecting a challenge because it will not.
Yeah,
deliver.
I know. Like, and again, I'm coming from a position of where I've played two extremely difficult games, but like,
Yeah,
it's still like, you know, it seems a tad much on the difficulty, the lack of difficulty, I should say.
it is supposed to be like baby's first platformer. Like,
Yeah,
it is very much like Mario's hard for you. We still have Kirby. Like, it is
Yeah.
not.
no, I mean, like, difficulty aside, I just really enjoy the character of Kirby.
too,
Like,
yeah.
Kirby's
He's
super
friend-shaped.
cute. I really like, you know, his copy ability and just that he eats a lot. I think it's pretty
I
funny.
love the Kirby lore.
Yeah, the lore. Yeah,
No.
I need to get into the lore a bit, but like, definitely from what I've heard from you, it gets
I mean,
insane.
you have to read into it for it to get stupid, but it is
Yeah.
there.
Right.
So
I mean, that's like rule one of Kirby, really, isn't it?
yeah.
Is that the lore is absolutely nutty.
Well, I don't,
Yeah.
you can't really call it rule one because it's not. I mean, the lore is not nutty in the first Kirby game. The first Kirby game is King Dedede stole a bunch of food and Kirby was hungry, so he went and beat him up. Like,
Sounds about right, yeah.
yeah. But that was before copy abilities were even a thing.
You've ever been so hungry you go beat up somebody because they stole your food?
Probably as a kid, yeah.
But yeah, overall, super enjoying it. And it's a nice kind of like dichotomy, you know, like playing a little Ghostrunner, playing a little Kirby. They kind of like even each other out. So,
For sure.
Yeah.
all right. How about you, Mike?
So this is less of actually playing the game, and this is more of the experience of spending 6 hours modding it. I spent 6 hours modding Oblivion,
Whoa.
all in one sitting.
So is Thomas the Tank Engine like wreaking havoc in your game now?
No. I spent less time modding Skyrim than I did Oblivion, because Oblivion is built like a straw house. And sometimes one mod that works previously will just stop working.
Yeah. I remember trying to mod Oblivion in the pre-Skyrim days, and it's just not a smooth an experience.
Like at least Skyrim, you could throw as much into it and it'll still keep chugging along, hopefully. But Oblivion, if it doesn't like a certain mod, it'll just stop working, like entirely. The game won't even launch.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you got to a point where you could play it.
I often did not when I was trying to mod it. The fun was modding it, not playing
Yeah,
the
the
game.
fun's always modding the game.
Yeah.
I've
would mod
had
the game and get it to a stable state, play it for 5 minutes, and realize you don't really want to do this anymore.
play it for
Yeah.
5
Something
minutes
else.
and then realize I need more mods. So you put more mods and then the game will crash. Then you spend another 5 hours troubleshooting, going through your mod list, uninstall Oblivion, reinstall Oblivion,
The work is never
reinstall
done.
all your mods. Game
Jeez.
doesn't launch. Got to make a patch. Make the patch, game launches, more mods, repeat the cycle until eventually it is dark outside, you haven't eaten in 7 hours, and your Oblivion still doesn't run properly.
So was it worth it?
Yes. 100%. It was the fun was the friends we made along the way, not the actual playing of Oblivion. Just as Todd intended.
I can respect that.
I don't
Is that
actually
it?
have another game.
Anyway, I did play Skyrim.
Okay.
I'm not
What
going
was
to
that?
talk
That's-
fully.
Obscure.
What's Skyrim?
It's that game you can play on your fridge.
Oh my
and
god!
your Alexa
And your Alexa, and your Nintendo Switch,
and your Steam Deck,
and your Steam Deck,
if you are so blessed.
your mobile phone. You want to play
Skyrim on mobile?
Yeah, there has to be a way.
I mean,
Well, you can Steam Remote Play.
yeah, you can play any game. On
You
your
can
phone.
you can play it in your car. You own a Tesla, you can play it. And this is how we're going to end the podcast. We're just going to keep labeling Skyrim places.
Jeez. It's never going to go away.
Bring us out, I mean, I'm going to keep going if we don't.
All right. Connor.
I don't actually have another game.
Oh, wait, hold on. I got another game. Don't worry.
I
This
just
has
wanted
been-
to sound annoying.
I
I don't have another game.
feel like you guys are intentionally making this the most difficult to edit episode.
You can leave that joke in there. That's not that bad.
Oh, I mean, you're going to have a fun time with my audio because it's been randomly peaking.
So, like, the audio levels I really don't care about because I run everything through this algorithm that really kind of equalizes everyone, so...
Yeah, I might have a
Should
little
be fine.
clipping, so it might be a little stinky here and there.
Well, my audio is immaculate.
Yeah, usually it's my audio lately that has the issues, and I don't know why.
Because
Like,
you
the
listen to
audio...
everything so loud. I can't
Well-
imagine. I think if I put my volume on 100% with, and we have the same pair of headphones, I think. If I listen to anything on 100%, I think it would hurt my ears very badly. I'm on, let's see, 26% right now.
Yeah, I'm on 35 now, so I'm still listening higher than you. which
I
is-
go as high as the 30s when I'm listening to music and stuff or playing games.
I
I've
have
been
my
as high
stuff
as
through an
52.
amp.
I
I'm
don't-
always amped up, and everything's at max volume. I can't
Yeah, I'm
hear
kind of that
anything
way
outside.
too. I like blasting it, but
I'd die. No, I value my hearing too much.
What's hearing?
all right. I think that's gonna do it for us this week. Thank you all for listening. You can follow us at my voice cracked. There's phlegm in my throat. Okay.
You can follow us at Podcast Game Talk.
Yeah, it's harder than it looks, right?
It is. I know the intro. I don't know the
Check
outro.
us out on Twitter. Out Podcast Game Talk.
Yeah, it's getting there.
Hey, welcome to Game Talk. I'm your host, Ahmed Me.
Nope,
Hey,
nope.
welcome to
We already
Game
did that.
Talk. I'm your host, Evan Me.
Close it out. Hey, why don't you two close it out? Go ahead.
Game Talk. Woo!
I don't know the outro. Do not. I am so tuned out by the time you're doing the outro. I do not
Mentally, my brain just shuts off after I say my piece at the end of games we've been playing.
know it. I'm waiting
All
for
right.
my cue to say, see you guys next week.
All right. Well,
yeah, I'll
here-
just be
here you go.
silent.
All right, that's going to do it for us this week. Thank you all for listening. You can follow us at Podcast Game Talk on Twitter. Please like, rate, and review us on any podcast you use, any podcast service you use, including Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, etc. Click the link in the description of this podcast to join our Discord and talk to us there. Thank you, Connor and Mike.
Yeah, see you guys next week.
See you next time. Bye.
So, why don't we just record that once and just put it in? If it's such
That's-
a pain.
I'm not taking any questions on that. No, that's probably a really good idea.
Yeah. 'Cause
But
we do
also,
just
I don't
say the
know.
same thing. I think
Takes
it's
away some of the
hilarious.
flavor.
Yeah. We do put a little sauce on it every time.